Hello and welcome to The World This Week with Tanya Francis. A look back at some of the biggest global news stories for an international city, brought to you by the London Live News team. In today's show, we mark 1 month since Russia invaded Ukraine. Despite the continued shelling and destruction, Ukraine's counterattacks gain more ground. World leaders met in Brussels for an emergency meeting on how best to move forward in supporting Ukraine as Russia shows no sign of a ceasefire. And hundreds of rescue workers search for remains as a plane carrying 132 people crashes in the southern province of Guangxi. All of that to come in our programme this morning, which is dedicated to the disaster unfolding in Ukraine as we mark 1 month since Russia invaded. At the time of recording, these were some of the latest lines coming from the conflict. Despite Russia making quick advances in the first days of the attack, this week has shown Ukrainian forces are fending off attacks and even regaining control in certain areas, including some towns and defensive positions up to 35 kilometres east of Kyiv. This is according to the UK Ministry of Defence. However, the shelling continued in the capital. This week, Russian forces destroyed a shopping centre. Here is the moment it happened. Just a warning that some viewers might find this footage disturbing. Leaving a flattened ruin, it's believed the blast killed 8 people and shattered all the windows in the high-rise building next door, as well as causing damage to a nearby school. To the southeast of the country, and forces in besieged city of Mariupol say they are still holding out. But, as we can see from this footage, much of the city has been destroyed, with President Zelensky saying it's one of the area's worst hit, with over 100,000 people living in inhumane conditions. Thousands remain trapped in basements with little water, food, medicine or electricity. Or 75 kilometres from here, in the occupied part of Berdyansk, Ukraine's navy reported it's destroyed a Russian landing ship, another ship called Orsk, and damaged several others. To Kherson, in the south of the country, the only major city occupied by Russian forces, this week protesters confronted Russian troops shouting, "Go home." Russian soldiers reacted by firing shots into the air to try to disperse the protesters. President Zelensky hails them for their courage. He accused Russia of shooting at people who are simply calling for peace.
Today we all saw how slaves were shooting at free people. They are slaves of propaganda who changed their consciousness. They are slaves who got used to packing everyone in police buses, even grandmothers, with empty white banners, or girls with A4 sheets of paper bearing the word peace.
Now, back to the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who this week made a direct appeal in English for the world to come together and protest against Russia's war.
Starting from March 24th, exactly 1 month after the Russian invasion. Come from your offices, your homes, your schools and universities. Come in the name of peace. Come with Ukrainian symbols to support Ukraine, to support freedom, to support life. Come to your squares, your streets. Make yourselves visible and heard. Say that people matter, freedom matters, peace matters, Ukraine matters. From March 24th, in downtowns of your cities. All as one together who want to stop the war.
Well, it comes as we mark 1 month since the beginning of the invasion. Let's just take a look at what's happened in the last 30 days. Vladimir Putin began what he described as a special military operation in Ukraine.
И приведет вас к таким последствиям, с которыми вы в своей истории еще никогда не сталкивались.
The invasion began after months of Russian troops arriving near the border of Ukraine, with NATO allies condemning the attack and imposing sanctions to try and destabilize the Russian economy.
Russia has shattered peace in Europe. The people of Ukraine are fighting for their freedom in the face of Russia's unprovoked invasion.
There's been solidarity around the world for the plight of Ukraine as millions have sought refuge in Western Europe. Although the UK supplied aid, they have been criticised for being slow on sanctions and allowing Ukrainian refugees entry into the country. 1 month into the conflict, it's estimated that more than 3.5 million Ukrainians have fled the country. If we take a look at this map, we can see that Russia made gains initially, but after 4 weeks of fighting, their advance through Ukraine has stalled. Well, Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko marked 1 month since the beginning of the Russian aggression against Ukraine with an emotional message to the people of his country.
Друзі, дорогі кияни, місяць вже Україна протистоїть.
Friends, dear Kyivians, it is now a month that Ukraine is resisting the Russian aggressor. For a month, our defenders are heroically fighting. The enemy is trying to destroy our places. The life of every Ukrainian has changed drastically. Some are defending Ukraine with arms in hand. Some have lost their homes and left their native lands. And some, most tragically, have lost their loved ones, children. It is a month of tragedy and courage, the moment of truth for every one of us, a celebration of our values and great purpose, and we have shown what freedom and unity mean for us.
Свобода і гідність.
Now, Western leaders met for an emergency summit in Brussels this week to discuss how they will continue to support Ukraine. NATO, the G7 and the EU all held meetings to decide on a collective defence plan. NATO leaders agreed on increasing the Allies' forces in Eastern Europe, with 4 new battle groups sent to Slovakia, Hungary, Bulgaria and Romania. They are also stepping up measures to protect Ukraine against a possible nuclear attack.
We agreed to do more, including cyber security assistance and equipment to help Ukraine protect against biological, chemical, radiological and nuclear threats. This could include detection, protection and medical supplies, as well as training for decontamination and crisis management. We are determined to do all we can to support Ukraine, and I welcome the concrete offers of assistance made by allies today.
Well, US President Joe Biden was also in Brussels and spoke earlier this week and also warned that Russia could be preparing to launch a cyber attack on the US as an act of retaliation for sanctions imposed on them.
Today, my administration has issued renewed warnings that, based on evolving intelligence, Russia may be planning a cyber attack against us. And as I said, the magnitude of Russia's cyber capacity is fairly consequential, and it's coming. The federal government is doing its part to get ready, but under U.S. law, as you all remember, the private sector, all of you, largely decides the protections that you will or will not take in order to protect your sources. But let me be absolutely clear about something. It's not just in your interest that are at stake with the potential use of cybersecurity. It is the national interest at stake. And I would respectfully suggest it's a patriotic obligation for you to invest as much as you can in making sure, and we will help in any way, that you have built up your technological capacity to deal with cyber attacks.
Now, just before the break, let's bring you this. A community of artists in Kyiv have transformed their art studio into a small factory making bulletproof vests, barricades and small stoves.
At first, we were doing small anti-tank barricades. We went to a fitment warehouse, picked up some small metal structures, then we started doing full-scale anti-tank barricades. Now we are doing pot-belly stoves, bulletproof plates. We are also sewing vests in the sewing room. Everything is in motion. One thing prompted another. We met new people. Now we have a full-scale production of bulletproof vests from A to Z.
The space was initially going to be used to host various art projects, but the artists then decided they wanted to help defend the capital against the Russian invasion.
We are fighting here not even for freedom, but for existence. This is why I never had an idea to flee, and I'm really glad that I came here to this place. I feel here worthy.
The World This Week continues after the break. We'll be looking at the UK's response to the war in Ukraine in a week when they hit Russia with 65 new sanctions, as Boris Johnson says there must be an increased combined effort to support Ukraine. Hello and welcome back. You're watching The World This Week from the London Live News team, a review of the main international stories that have broken over the last 7 days. Still to come.
What's happened now should have happened 6 years ago.
Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe speaks to the public for the first time since being released from prison in Iran, where she was held for 6 years. The British Iranian was being held there after allegations she had plans to overthrow the government. First, though, let's bring you a look at how the UK have been reacting to the war in Ukraine this week. Russia was hit with 65 new sanctions by the UK in a move the Foreign Office said was designed to target key strategic industries and individuals. Among those targeted were 6 banks, a drone company, and the Wagner Group, a Russian paramilitary organisation. Well, Prime Minister Boris Johnson was in Brussels as he joined NATO leaders to discuss Russia's invasion of Ukraine. He said allies must step up their support with sanctions and providing defensive military equipment.
Look, I think everybody wants to see a peaceful, negotiated outcome if that were possible, but Vladimir Putin is plainly determined to double down on his path of violence and aggression, absolutely brutal way he's treating the Ukrainian people. We've got to step up. We've got to increase our support, and we've got to tighten the economic vice around Putin, sanctioning more people today as we are, sanctioning the Wagner Group, looking at what we can do to stop Putin using his gold reserves, but also doing more to help the Ukrainians defend themselves. That's what we're doing. We're helping free people to defend themselves, and so the UK, having been in the lead in giving anti-tank weaponry, is now giving 6,000 more missiles in addition to a lot of other support. But there are now dozens of nations that are supporting the Ukrainians, and we're moving really from a program of supporting resistance to supporting Ukrainian defense of their own country.
To the UK now, where dozens of Ukrainian orphans were welcomed here as they arrived on aboard a special chartered flight from Poland to Heathrow.
Well, today we have finally been able to bring 52 orphans back from Ukraine. We've been working hard on this for a couple of weeks.
Called Operation Project Light, it was organised by a number of charities and included several toddlers, along with 7 legal guardians. They'll be given temporary homes in Scotland until it's safe for them to return home.
The most dramatic was waiting for the last 2 girls to get their visas. My daughter flew out here so that she could take them back if they didn't get them. But the British Embassy pulled out all the stops. They were brilliant, and we got them at the last minute.
Now to Cambridgeshire here in the UK, a family of 10 from Ukraine have been reunited in the UK after fleeing the war-torn city of Kharkiv. They came here under the Ukraine Family Scheme, which allows people to join family members or extend their stay in the UK. A businessman from Cambridgeshire has put them up in one of his homes, which he bought just before the war broke out.
It's such a relief, and I can feel like maybe I have a home again, because I feel that I lost everything that I had, like my kids lost everything, and I did so much hard, my family, for us to live there, to earn money, to do a nice place to live for kids, and we lost in one day everything. But so I'm so grateful for everyone who supports us and who can give us some place to live, and I really appreciate it, and it's so much make it so much easier for us to come here.
Now, let's bring you this. A British current affairs artist has flown to Ukraine to document what is happening on the ground, with a focus on the humans behind the headlines. George Butler has reported on migration during global crises for over 8 years, using art and sketching as his way of communicating. And here's what he had to tell us about what he's seeing on the ground there.
I drew this extraordinary old lady yesterday. She's called Madame Olga. And she was 99, survived the Great Famine 80 years ago, then Second World War. She was a slave, a Nazi slave in Dresden between 1943 and 1945. And she's now too old to get out of her top floor flat to get down when the sirens ring. And whenever anybody visits, she thinks they're going to take her away. And that's the last thing she wants from her beloved Ukraine. So the sort of humanity is around every corner. It's brought out by situations that we've seen on the news. But Kyiv is not, at the moment, like Mariupol or Kherson or Kharkiv. It's a testament to the Ukrainian armed forces that it isn't. But it is right around the edges, places like Brovary and Irpin and Bucha. So we can sort of hear it and we can see it in the volunteer work and the territorial defence around the streets in Kiev. But for the most part, it's at a distance.
Now, in other news, here in the UK, Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe gave her first press conference after being freed from prison in Iran. The British-Iranian woman had been detained in Tehran since 2016 after being accused of plotting to overthrow the government there. These are allegations she has consistently denied. She criticised the UK government for taking 6 years to bring her home.
The journey back home was tough. I grant what Richard said, to thank the Foreign Secretary. I do not really agree with him on that level. I'm going to tell you that because I have seen 5 foreign secretaries changed over the course of 6 years. That is unprecedented given the politics of the UK. I love you, Richard. Respect whatever you believe. But I was told many, many times that, oh, we're going to get you home. That never happened. So there was a time that I felt like, do you know what? I'm not even going to trust you because I've been told many, many times that I'm going to be taken home, but that never happened. I mean, how many foreign secretaries does it take for someone to come home? 5? It should have been one of them eventually. So now here we are. What's happened now should have happened 6 years ago.
Well, she returned home to her daughter Gabriella and her husband Richard, who has been campaigning tirelessly to get her back. Now to China, where a plane carrying 132 people crashed in the southern province of Guangxi. Hundreds of rescue workers have been searching the area, but heavy rainfall has made it more difficult than expected. It was about an hour into the journey when it suddenly nosedived into a remote mountainous area, setting off a fire in the surrounding forest. Locals say they heard the roar of a plane engine and then an explosion with a smell of oil in the air moments after. One of the 2 black boxes, it's severely damaged, has been found, which records the flight data, and over 200 other pieces of the plane, along with some personal items belonging to the passengers and human remains.
Following the instructions of the command headquarters, the fire rescue team is mainly conducting the tasks of searching for lives. Therefore, we are using thermographic cameras and life detectors to conduct search on the ground and heat search. But because of the rainfall these days, the search signal of our equipment is pretty weak.
Well, after the accident, the airline announced that they have grounded all of their Boeing 737-800 planes to carry out additional checks. The cause of the crash is unknown, and China Eastern Airlines have denied speculation that it could be due to reduced plane maintenance, saying all checks were carried out as normal. Now to the USA, where this week a powerful storm blew from Texas to South Carolina, causing widespread damage. Multiple tornadoes ripped through parts of Texas and Oklahoma, killing at least 2 people. Well, it started in Texas, where it uprooted trees, ripped the roofs off houses and overturned cars across the state. with winds up to 332 kilometres per hour. Well, it's reported the giant twister was then on the ground in New Orleans for at least 5 minutes. Well, New Orleans is, of course, no stranger to natural disasters after it was the hardest hit area during Hurricane Katrina, which killed nearly 2,000 people back in 2005. Well, it then moved on to Jacksboro in South Carolina, where it hit a local high school.
Substantial damage to our elementary and high school. Both of the gym at the elementary, the roof was taken off, walls collapsed. You can see the damage here at our high school gymnasium. This wall was collapsed. We sustained some damage at our football stadium, our ag facility.
Well, all the students and teachers took cover in their school's storm shelter, with officials saying it's a miracle no one inside was hurt.
I was one of the first responders here, and this campus did a great job. The faculty, the staff, the parents that were lined up here to pick up students, they did an incredible job on getting everybody in the building, getting everybody into the safe hallways that we have.
Now back to the UK, where WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has got married in prison here in London. He tied the knot with his long-term partner Stella Morris after they were allowed by Belmarsh prison to have a small ceremony with 4 guests, their 2 children and Assange's father and brother. Well, Assange is being held over the publication of thousands of classified documents about the Afghanistan and Iraq wars. These are claims and allegations that he denies. His wife arrived wearing a floor-length gown and finished the celebrations outside with the cutting of the cake and an emotional speech.
I'm very happy. I'm very sad. I love Julian with all my heart. And I wish you were here.
Well, congratulations to Julian and Stella there. Now, let's just show you this before we go. Dust from the Sahara Desert is back in southern Spain. We can see from this footage in Marbella and Gibraltar, the skies have turned a red-orange colour, giving a rather apocalyptic feel to the area. People have said that they feel like they are living on Mars and are not looking forward to the clean-up, as the red dust storm known as Kalima locally has coated the area in a light dusting of Sahara sand. Well, that's all from the world this week with me, Tanya Francis. We'll see you at 7 a.m. next Saturday as we round up the biggest international news stories for a global city.